Chapter 85 Laws of Inheritance Al-Faraa'id. Chapter 1 Allah commands you as regards your children's inheritance. Narrated Jabir bin Abdullah. I became sick, so Allah's Messenger and Abu Bakr came on foot to pay me a visit. When they came, I was unconscious. Allah's Messenger performed ablution, and he poured over me the water of his ablution, and I came to my senses and said, O Allah's Messenger, what shall I do regarding my property? How shall I distribute it? The Prophet did not reply till the divine verses of inheritance were revealed. Chapter 2 Learning about the laws of inheritance. Narrated Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger said, beware of suspicion, for it is the worst of false tales, and don't look for the other's faults, and don't spy, and don't hate each other, and don't cut your relations with one another, O Allah's slaves. Be brothers. See Hadith number 90. Chapter 3 Our property is not to be inherited, and whatever we leave is sadaqah. Narrated Aisha. Fatima and Al-Abbas came to Abu Bakr seeking their share from the property of Allah's Messenger, and at that time they were asking for the land at Fadak and their share from Khaybar. Abu Bakr said to them, I have heard from Allah's Messenger saying, our property cannot be inherited, and whatever we leave is to be spent in charity. But the family of Muhammad may take their provisions from this property. Abu Bakr added, by Allah, I will not leave the procedure I saw Allah's Messenger following during his lifetime concerning this property. Therefore Fatima left Abu Bakr and did not speak to him till she died. Narrated Aisha. The Prophet said, our apostles' property should not be inherited, and whatever we leave is to be spent in charity. Narrated Malik bin Aus. I went and entered upon Umar. His doorman Yarfa came saying, Uthman, Abdur Rahman, As-Zubayr and Saad are asking your permission to see you. May I admit them? Umar said, yes, so he admitted them. Then he came again and said, may I admit Ali and Abbas? He said, yes. Abbas said, O chief of the believers, judge between me and this man, Ali. Umar said, I beseech you, by Allah, by whose permission both the heaven and the earth exist. Do you know that Allah's Messenger said, are the apostles' property will not be inherited, and whatever we leave after our death is to be spent in charity. And by that Allah's Messenger meant himself. The group said, no doubt, he said so. Umar then faced Ali and Abbas and said, do you both know that Allah's Messenger said that? They replied, no doubt, he said so. Umar said, so let me talk to you about this matter. Allah favored his apostle with something of this fayya booty won by the Muslims at war without fighting, which he did not give to anybody else. Allah said, and what Allah gave to his apostle fayya booty to do all things. 59:6. And so that property was only for Allah's Messenger, yet by Allah he neither gathered that property for himself nor withheld it from you. But he gave its income to you, and distributed it among you till there remained the present property, out of which the prophet used to spend the yearly maintenance for his family, and whatever used to remain. He used to spend it where Allah's property is spent, in charity, etc. Allah's messenger followed that throughout his life. Now I beseech you by Allah, do you know all that? They said, yes. Umar then said to Ali and Abbas, I beseech you by Allah, do you know that? Both of them said, yes. Umar added, and when the Prophet died, Abu Bakr said, I am the successor of Allah's messenger, and took charge of that property, and managed it in the same way as Allah's messenger did. Then I took charge of this property for 2 years, during which I managed it as Allah's messenger, and Abu Bakr did. Then you both, Ali and Abbas, came to talk to me, bearing the same claim and presenting the same case. O Abbas, you came to me asking for your share from the property of your nephew, and this man, Ali, came to me asking for the share of his wife from the property of her father. I said, if you both wish, I will give that to you on that condition, yet that you would follow the way of the Prophet. And Abu Bakr and as I, Umar, have done in managing it. Now both of you seek of me a verdict other than that. Lo, by Allah, by whose permission both the heaven and the earth exist, I will not give any verdict other than that till the hour is established. If you are unable to manage it, then return it to me, and I will be sufficient to manage it on your behalf. Narrated Abu Hurairah. Allah's messenger said, not even a single dinar of my property should be distributed after my deaths to my inheritors, but whatever I leave, excluding the provision for my wives and my servants, should be spent in charity. Narrated Urwa. Aisha said, when Allah's messenger died, his wives intended to send Uthman to Abu Bakr asking him for their share of the inheritance. Then Aisha said to them, didn't Allah's messenger say, our apostles' property is not to be inherited, and whatever we leave is to be spent in charity. Chapter 4. Whoever leaves some property, then it is for his family. Narrated Abu Hurairah. The Prophet said, I am more closer to the believers than their own selves, so whoever of them dies while being in debt, and leaves nothing for its repayment, then we are to pay his debts on his behalf, and whoever among the believers dies leaving some property, then that property is for his heirs. Chapter 5. Inheritance of the offspring from dead fathers and mothers. Narrated Ibn Abbas. The Prophet said, give the Faraa'id the shares of the inheritance that are prescribed in the Quran to those who are entitled to receive it, then whatever remains should be given to the closest male relative of the deceased. Chapter 6. The inheritance of daughters. Narrated Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas. I was stricken by an ailment that led me to the verge of death. The Prophet came to pay me a visit. I said, O Allah's messenger, I have much property and no heir except my single daughter. Shall I give 2/3 of my property in charity? He said no. I said, half of it? He said no. I said, 1/3 of it? He said, you may do so, though 1/3 is also too much, for it is better for you to leave your offspring wealthy than to leave them poor, asking others for help, and whatever you spend for Allah's sake, you will be rewarded for it. Even for a morsel of food which you may put in the mouth of your wife. I said, O Allah's Messenger, will I remain behind and fail to complete my immigration? The Prophet said, if you are left behind after me, whatever good deeds you will do for Allah's sake, that will upgrade you and raise you high. Maybe you will have long life, so that some people may benefit by you, and others, the enemies, be harmed by you. But Allah's Messenger felt sorry for Sa'd bin Kawla, as he died in Mecca. Sufyan, a sub-narrator, said that Sa'd bin Kawla was a man from the tribe of Bani Amir bin Luay. Narrated Al-Aswad bin Yazid. Muad bin Jabal came to us in Yemen as a tutor and a ruler, and we, the people of Yemen, asked him about the distribution of the property of a man who had died, leaving a daughter and a sister. Muad gave the daughter 1/2 of the property and gave the sister the other half. Chapter 7. The inheritance of one's grandchild. Narrated Ibn Abbas. Allah's Messenger said, give the Faraa'id shares prescribed in the Quran to those who are entitled to receive it, and whatever remains should be given to the closest male relative of the deceased. Chapter 8. The share of inheritance of one's son's daughter. Narrated Husayl bin Shirabil. Abu Musa was asked regarding the inheritance of a daughter, a son's daughter, and a sister. He said, the daughter will take 1/2 and the sister will take 1/2. If you go to Ibn Masud, he will tell you the same. Ibn Masud was asked and was told of Abu Musa's verdict. Ibn Masud then said, if I give the same verdict, I will stray and will not be of the rightly guided. The verdict I will give in this case will be the same as the Prophet did. 1/2 is for daughter and 1/6 for the son's daughter. Both shares make 2/3 of the total property, and the rest is for the sister. Afterwards we comes to Abu Musa and informed him of Ibn Masud's verdict, whereupon he said, so do not ask me for verdicts as long as this learned man is among you. Chapter 9. The shares of inheritance for the paternal grandfather, the father and brothers. Narrated Ibn Abbas. The Prophet said, give the Faraa'id the shares prescribed in the Quran to those who are entitled to receive it, and then whatever remains should be given to the closest male relative of the deceased. Narrated Ibn Abbas. The person about whom Allah's Messenger said, if I were to take a Khalil from this nation, my followers, then I would have taken him, Abu Bakr. But the Islamic Brotherhood is better, or said, good, regarded a grandfather as the father himself in inheritance. Chapter 10. The inheritance of husband along with the offspring and other relatives. Narrated Ibn Abbas. During the early days of Islam, the inheritance used to be given to one's offspring, and legacy used to be bequeathed to the parents. Then Allah cancelled what He wished from that order and decreed that the male should be given the equivalent of the portion of two females, and for the parents 1/6 for each of them, and for one's wife 1/8 if the deceased has children, and 1/4 if he has no children, for one's husband 1/2 if the deceased has no children, and 1/4 if she has children. Chapter 11. The inheritance of a woman and the husband along with the offspring and other relatives. Narrated Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger gave the judgment that a male or female slave should be given in qisas for an abortion case of a woman from the tribe of Bani Lihian as blood money for the fetus, but a lady on whom the penalty had been imposed died, so the prophets ordered that her property be inherited by her offspring and her husband, and that the penalty be paid by her asaba. Chapter 12. The sisters share the inheritance with the daughters. Narrated Al-Aswad. Mu'adh bin Jabal gave his verdict for us in the lifetime of Allah's Messenger. 1/2 of the inheritance is to be given to the daughter and the other half to the sister. Sulaiman said, Mu'adh gave a verdict for us, but he did not mention that it was so in the lifetime of Allah's Messenger. Narrated Husayl. Abdullah said, the judgment I will give in this matter will be like the judgment of the Prophet, yet 1/2 is for the daughter and 1/6 for the son's daughter, and the rest of the inheritance is for the sister. Chapter 13. The inheritance of the sisters and brothers. Narrated Jabir. While I was sick, the Prophet entered upon me and asked for some water to perform ablution, and after he had finished his ablution, he sprinkled some water of his ablution over me, whereupon I became conscious and said, O Allah's Messenger, I have sisters. Then the divine verses regarding the laws of inheritance were revealed. Chapter 14. They ask you for a legal verdict. Say Allah directs about Al-Kalala. Narrated Al-Bara. The last Quranic verse that was revealed to the Prophet was the final verse of Surat An-Nisa. They ask you for a legal verdict. Say Allah directs thus about those who leave no descendants or ascendants as heirs. 476. Chapter 15. The heirs of a lady who dies, leaving 2 cousins, her maternal brother and her husband. Narrated Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger said, I am more closer to the believers than their own selves. So whoever among them dies, leaving some inheritance, his inheritance will be given to his asaba, and whoever dies, leaving a debt or dependents or destitute children, then I am their supporter. Narrated Ibn Abbas. The Prophet said, give the Faraa'id the shares of the inheritance that are prescribed in the Quran to those who are entitled to receive it, and whatever is left should be given to the closest male relative of the deceased. Chapter 16. Kindred by blood. Narrated Ibn Abbas. Regarding the holy verse, and to everyone we have appointed heirs, and 433 to those also to whom your right hands have pledged. 433. When the emigrants came to Medina, the Ansar used to be the heir of the emigrants, and vice versa, instead of their own kindred by blood, Dawl el-Arham, and that was because of the band of brotherhood which the Prophet had established between them, the Ansar and the emigrants. But when the divine verse and to everyone we have appointed heirs, 433, was revealed, it cancelled the other order, yet to those also to whom your right hands have pledged. Chapter 17. The inheritance in the case of Mulana. Narrated Ibn Umar. A man and his wife had a case of lian or Mulana during the lifetime of the Prophet, and the man denied the paternity of her child, the prophet gave his verdict for their separation, the divorce, and then the child was regarded as belonging to the wife only. Chapter 18. The child is for the owner of the bed. Narrated Aisha. Utbah bin Abi Waqqas said to his brother Saad, "The son of the slave girl of Sama is my son, so be his custodian. So when it was the year of the conquest of Mecca, Saad took that child and said, 'He is my nephew, and my brother told me to be his custodian.' On that, Abu bin Sama got up and said, 'But the child is my brother and the son of my father's slave girl, as he was born on his bed.' So they both went to the Prophet. Saad said, 'O Allah's Messenger, this is the son of my brother, and he told me to be his custodian.' Then Abu bin Sama said, 'But he is my brother and the son of the slave girl of my father, born on his bed.' The Prophet said, 'This child is for you, O Abu bin Sama, as the child is for the owner of the bed, and the adulterer receives the stones.' He then ordered his wife, Sauda bin Sama, to cover herself before that boy, as he noticed the boy's resemblance to Utbah. Since then, the boy had never seen Sauda till he died. Narrated Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, 'The boy is for the owner of the bed.' Chapter 19. Al-Wala is for the manimeter. Narrated Aisha. I bought Barira, a female slave. The Prophet said to me, 'Buy her as the Wala is for the manumitted.' Once she was given a sheep in charity. The Prophet said, 'The sheep is a charitable gift for her, Barira, and a gift for us.' Al-Hakam said, 'Barira's husband was a free man.' Ibn Abbas said, 'When I saw him, he was a slave.' Narrated Ibn Umar. The Prophet said, 'The Wala is for the manumitted of the slave.' Chapter 20. The heir of the Saiba. Narrated Abdullah. The Muslims did not free slaves as Saiba, but the people of the pre-Islamic period of ignorance used to do so. Narrated Al-Aswad. Aisha bought Barira in order to manumit her, but her masters stipulated that her wala after her death would be for them. Aisha said, 'O Allah's Messenger, I have bought Barira in order to manumit her, but her masters stipulated that her wala will be for them.' The Prophet said, 'Manumit her as the wala is for the one who manumits the slave,' or said, 'the one who pays her price.' Then Aisha bought and manumitted her. After that, Barira was given the choice by the Prophet to stay with her husband or leave him. She said, 'If he gave me so much and so much money, I will not stay with him.' Al-Aswad added, 'Her husband was a free man.' The sub-narrator added, 'The series of the narrators of Al-Aswad's statement is incomplete. The statement of Ibn Abbas, 'When I saw him, he was a slave,' is more authentic. Chapter 21. The sin of the freed slave who denies his master who has freed him. Narrated Ali. We have no book to recite except the book of Allah, Quran, and this paper. Then Ali took out the paper, and behold, there was written in it legal verdicts about the retaliation for wounds, the ages of the camels to be paid as zakat or as blood money. In it was also written, Medina is a sanctuary from Air Mountain to Taur Mountain, so whoever innovates in it an heresy, something new in religion, or commits a crime in it, or gives shelter to such an innovator, will incur the curse of Allah, the angels and all the people, and none of his compulsory or optional good deeds will be accepted on the day of resurrection. And whoever a freed slave takes as his master, befriends some people other than real masters, without the permission of his real masters, will incur the curse of Allah, the angels and all the people, and none of his compulsory or optional good deeds will be accepted on the day of resurrection. And the asylum granted by any Muslim is to be secured by all the Muslims, even if it is granted by one of the lowest social status among them. And whoever betrays a Muslim in this respect will incur the curse of Allah, the angels and all the people, and none of his compulsory or optional good deeds will be accepted on the day of resurrection. Narrated Ibn Umar. The Prophet forbade the selling of the wala of slaves or giving it as a present. Chapter 22. If someone is converted to Islam through somebody else. Narrated Ibn Umar. That Aisha, the mother of the believers, intended to buy a slave girl in order to manumit her. The slave girl's master said, "We are ready to sell her to you on the condition that her wala should be for us." Aisha mentioned that to Allah's Messenger, who said, "This condition should not prevent you from buying her, for the wala is for the one who manumits the slave." Narrated Al-Aswad. Aisha said, "I bought Barira, and her master stipulated that the wala would be for them." Aisha mentioned that to the Prophet, and he said, "Manumit her, as the wala is for the one who gives the silver, pays the price for freeing the slave." Aisha added, "So I manumitted her." After that, the Prophet called her Barira and gave her the choice to go back to her husband or not. She said, "If he gave me so much and so much money, I will not stay with him." So she selected her own self, yet refused to go back to her husband. Chapter 23. What a woman can inherit of the wala. In the book it is given woman. Narrated Ibn Umar. When Aisha intended to buy Barira, she said to the Prophet, "Barira's masters stipulated that they will have the wala." The Prophet said to Aisha, "Buy her, as the wala is for the one who manumits." Narrated Aisha. Allah's Messenger said, "The wala is for the one who gives the silver, pays the price, and does the favor of manumission after paying the price." Chapter 24. The freed slave belongs to the people who have freed him. Narrated Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said, "The freed slave belongs to the people who have freed him," or said something similar. Narrated Anas bin Malik. The Prophet said, "The son of the sister of some people is from them, or from their own selves." Chapter 25. The inheritance of a captive. Narrated Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, if somebody dies among the Muslims, leaving some property, the property will go to his heirs. And if he leaves a debt or dependents, we will take care of them. Chapter 26. Neither a Muslim can be the heir of a disbeliever, nor a disbeliever of a Muslim. Narrated Usama bin Zayd. The Prophet said, a Muslim cannot be the heir of a disbeliever, nor can a disbeliever be the heir of a Muslim. Chapter 27. The inheritance of a Christian slave and a mukatab. Chapter 28. Whoever claims that somebody is his brother or his nephew. Narrated Aisha. Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas and Abu bin Sama had a dispute over a boy. Sa'd said, O Allah's Messenger, this boy is a son of my brother, Utbah bin Abi Waqqas, who told me to be his custodian, as he was his son. Please notice to whom he bears affinity. And Abu bin Sama said, this is my brother, O Allah's Messenger. He was born on my father's bed by his slave girl. Then the Prophet looked at the boy and noticed evident resemblance between him and Utbah. So he said, the boy is for you, O Abu bin Sama, for the boy is for the owner of the bed, and the stone is for the adulterer. Screen yourself before the boy, O Sauda bint Sama. Aisha added, since then he had never seen Sauda. Chapter 29. Whoever claims to be the son of a person other than his father. Narrated Sa'd. I heard a prophet saying, whoever claims to be the son of a person other than his father, and he knows that person is not his father, then paradise will be forbidden for him. I mentioned that to Abu Bakr, and he said, my ears heard that and my heart memorized it from Allah's Messenger. Narrated Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, do not deny your fathers, yet claim to be the sons of persons other than your fathers, and whoever denies his father is charged with disbelief. Chapter 30. If a lady claims to be the mother of a son. Narrated Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger said, there were two women with whom there were their two sons. A wolf came and took away the son of one of them. That lady said to her companion, the wolf has taken your son. The other said, but it has taken your son. So both of them sought the judgment of the Prophet, David, who judged that the boy should be given to the older lady. Then both of them went to the Prophet Solomon, son of David, and informed him of the case. Solomon said, give me a knife so that I may cut the child into two portions, and give one half to each of you, The younger lady said, do not do so. May Allah bless you. He is her child. On that he gave the child to the younger lady. Abu Huraira added, by Allah, I had never heard the word sakin as meaning knife, except on that day, for we used to call it mudya. Chapter 31. The Kaif. Narrated Aisha. Allah's Messenger once entered upon me in a very happy mood, with his features glittering with joy, and said, O Aisha, won't you see that Mujasis, a Kaif, looked just now at Zayd bin Haritha and Usama bin Zayd, and said, these feet of Usama and his father belong to each other. See Hadith number 755, volume 4. Narrated Aisha. Once Allah's Messenger entered upon me, and he was in a very happy mood, and said, O Aisha, don't you know that Mujasis al-Mudliji entered and saw Usama and Zayd with a velvet covering on them, and their heads were covered while their feet were uncovered. He said, "These feet belong to each other."